Hello everyone, back to today's third and final video update. So we're doing the February 2019 ENSO update for today's third video. So did the first ENSO update of 2019 back in January. Of course, we do one of these every month right way through to the end of the summer. And I'm going to bring you an update for the latest developments in terms of what's happening in the ENSO region with El Nino. And then we'll have a look at some model forecasts to see where things are being predicted to go through the remainder of the year. So get on that for you very shortly, just to say that the two videos already released today are both on the homepage. So JMA Friday, as always, your month-ahead look ahead on a Friday with the Japanese and CFS V2 models, and also week to 10-day video update was released this afternoon as well. So have a look at those and see what's been going on in the other videos today. Talk about tomorrow's updates at the end of this ENSO update. So I'm going to start off by having a look at the cold and warm episodes by season chart from CPC, which of course is part of NOAA. So this is depicting every month's or every ENSO event on a tri-monthly basis, going right way back to 1950. So for example, we see here back in the 1960s that in the year of 1968 to 1969 we had a weak El Nino event. You see these red numbers in the boxes here depicting El Nino going on through 1968 into 1969, and then going back to ENSO neutral for a little period through the middle of 1969 before again another weak El Nino in the second half of 1969. So positive red numbers are showing El Nino events. Conversely, negative blue numbers are showing La Nina cold events. So if you go a bit further down to 1970, 1971, you can see that after that El Nino that we had at the end of 1969, just lasting into the first tri-monthly period of 1970, then we go to ENSO neutral, depicted by those black colours, and then we pick up the blue colours, and that is La Nina cold event taking place through the second half of 1970 and lasting throughout the whole of 1971 as well. So red is El Nino, blue is La Nina. Let's go down to the very latest year, of course, 2018. It's 2019 now, but that doesn't show up on this chart yet. So this is the year of 2018 just here. We start the year with a La Nina event, a weak La Nina with those blue colours, then ENSO neutral through the middle part of the year. And then we see three positive black numbers just here. So these are reaching the required threshold for an El Nino. They are above that all-important 0.5 degrees above average, half a degree above average. So they reach the required temperature threshold, but not yet over 5 tri-monthly periods. See, to get a El Nino or a La Nina designated, you have to be above or below half a degree. You have to be above or below half a degree below or above average. And you have to do it over 5 tri-monthly periods. So we've actually had 3 now tri-monthly periods that reach this required temperature threshold of being over half a degree or more above average. But to get a full El Nino designated, we've got to fill in this box that's going to appear just here, and then another one just there for the tri-monthly periods of December, January, February, and January, February, March. If we do that, if those 2 boxes that are going to appear just here do reach that half a degree or more threshold, then you'll see the numbers going red, and we'll be able to say we have had an official El Nino designated. It will be a very weak El Nino for winter of 2018-2019, but nevertheless we will be able to say that we have had weak El Nino. So got a couple more tri-monthly periods that we've got to fill in before we can get this officially designated. We should know, I think we should know when we get through to, so March is going to cover December, January, February. April will cover January, February, March. So we should know at the start of April whether we have had an El Nino officially designated or not. So we'll keep you updated about that, of course. This is how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking at NOAA when we did last January's ENSO update. So this is the region that we're talking about, of course, the Equatorial-Pacific Ocean, from Peru over there in South America to Indonesia over here in Asia. This is the area of the Equatorial-Pacific Ocean. And El Nino is the warming, cyclical warming of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean over yearly and decadal periods. La Nina, of course, is the reverse, is the cooling of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean over, again, yearly and decadal periods. So we can see that last month we had the weak signature of El Nino, a little bit warmer than average over here, a bit warmer than average through here as well. That's how things were looking last month. This is the very latest, so not much change, but if anything, over the past month we have possibly seen a little bit of warming in the eastern part of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean. So let's go back to last month. That's the area I'm talking about just there. That situation last month. Situation now, I think, does show a little bit of a warming has taken place through this eastern part of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean, which is quite unusual because we should normally be seeing the temperature lowering, starting to move back towards ENSO neutral by the time you get through to the end of winter. These events, be they La Nina or El Nino, they typically peak around Christmas, and then they will gradually wane away through the first 2, 3, 4 months of the year. So you would normally be expecting a cool down from January to February, but if anything, in that eastern part of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean anyway, we have possibly seen a little bit of warming taking place over the past month. This is how things are looking at depth in terms of the subsurface temperature anomalies. This is from the CPC, NCEP and NOAA PDF. We link to this on the links page at Gasworthy's. So again, you have to think that this is kind of like the surface of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean just here. That's how the surface temperature anomalies are looking, but this is how things are looking at depth. So if you think that you're going to have Peru kind of like just there, and Indonesia will be over there, this of course is going to be the surface of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean just here. And then you've got the depths of the Pacific Ocean just there going down to around 300 meters. So we can see from this large red and orange area that we've got just here that at depth we still have a considerable amount of warmer than average subsurface temperature anomalies between around, say, 100 meters and 150 meters, or possibly to 200 meters. That's where the warmest temperature anomalies are in terms of those subsurface temperature anomalies just here. But they do rise up to the surface of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean as well. There is one cool area, or cold area, of subsurface temperature anomalies just there, but that's a very small area. It looks like the Equatorial Pacific Ocean, both in terms of the surface and subsurface temperature anomalies, are in an El Nino type state at the moment. Now, something else that's quite interesting and quite unusual is what's going on with the SOI. That's the Southern Oscillation Index. Now, the Southern Oscillation Index is just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere between Darwin in Australia and Tahiti in the South Pacific. It's kind of like a depiction of the atmospheric pressures. So when the SOI is in a negative phase, the atmosphere in the Southern Ocean will be reflective of El Nino. When the SOI is negative, you're going to have an El Nino type atmospheric setup in the Southern Ocean. When the SOI is positive, you're going to have a La Nina type setup, a cold event type setup in terms of the atmosphere in the South Pacific. Now, going back to more or less when we did the first update for this year for ENSO back in January, actually have quite a bit of positivity of the SOI. So, for example, we've got 23rd of January there coming out at +4, we've got 25th of January coming out at +4, a couple of negative days just there. And then we go positive again, 30th of January at +302. So very weakly, the atmosphere back in January was in kind of like a weak La Nina type setup, even though the extra Pacific Ocean itself was trying to get into an El Nino state, or had been in a weak El Nino state. What's happened recently, though, through February, is that we've had something of a significant crash of the SOI. So we've got the 7th of January just here. This is around when it started. 7th of February, I should say, coming out at minus 7.59. Remember, when the SOI is negative, the atmospheric state will be in an El Nino setup. This is when it starts, but when it really takes off, this negative phase of the SOI is the 12th of February, when we go down to minus 23.34. Very negative number. Indeed, and if we carry on scrolling up, you can see we've had even more negative numbers just recently. So, for example, we've got the 12th of February, again, at minus 23.34. We've got the 13th at minus 25.22. Then it goes even more negative in the middle of the month, 16th of February. Comes out at minus 24.88. 18th of February, minus 35.88. 19th of February, minus 43.61. This is the atmosphere in a very strongly El Nino type state. Very strongly El Nino over the past few days. 20th of February, minus 38.91. 21st of February, minus 27.76. Now, if we'd had those kind of numbers back in the autumn, we would have seen this El Nino really taking off, because we would have got the atmosphere and the ocean hooking up with one another, and that's how these events really snowball. When you get the atmosphere and the ocean connecting with one another, and you know it's happening via the sea surface temperature anomalies and by the SOI, when you get them connecting in the late summer and autumn period, that's when both El Nino and La Nina events take off. Because it's so late in the season, it's going to be a struggle to get the extra-Pacific Ocean to warm, but this is probably accounting for the warming that we've seen of particularly the eastern portion of the extra-Pacific Ocean over the past couple of months. Again, that's how sea surface temperature anomalies looked in January. That's how sea surface temperature anomalies look in February. I think there has been a slight warming of the extra-Pacific Ocean, and it will be primarily down to the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean going into a very strong setup for El Nino. Now, where this goes from here is going to be interesting to see. If these very negative numbers will continue into the spring, then we probably won't get a reversion back to ENSO neutral, as you would normally expect. We'd probably keep weak El Nino condition going through the spring. If these very negative numbers were then to continue going into the summer, then we might start thinking about a stronger El Nino event developing for the winter of 2019-2020. This is unusual, but it's not unheard of. Let's go back to this chart, have a look at 2014-2015 just here. So we begin 2014 at ENSO neutral on the negative side. We go into, or we keep ENSO neutral condition going into the summer of 2014, and then through the end of 2014 we start to move into a weak El Nino. So the weak El Nino of the winter of 2014-15 begins in this tri-monthly period just here, October, November, December, and November, December, January. That's when the first two red numbers appear. Again, only very weak El Nino, just weekly positive, 0.6, 0.7. That continues into early 2015 as well. So we've got the tri-monthly periods for December, January, February, January, February, March, February, March, April. It's those three just there that get the first weak El Nino designated for the winter of 2014-15. Now, at this point, sort of February, March, April, May, this period just here, you would normally expect that to be going back to ENSO neutral. It didn't. It just stayed at weak El Nino condition but also strengthening El Nino conditions. So as we go through into the summer tri-monthly periods, you see the red numbers are getting higher. So we're going kind of like from 0.6, just very slight El Nino, to 0.8, to 1.0, to 1.2, to 1.5, and by the time we get through to the autumn, we are in a super Nino. We go 1.8, 2.1, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6. It just absolutely takes off. It flies off, and we go into super Nino for the winter of 2015-2016. But this is actually like a continuous El Nino event that begins at the end of 2014 just there and doesn't finish until the middle of 2016 just here. So it's a continuous El Nino. The first winter is just a very weak El Nino. It doesn't fade back to ENSO neutral. It just carries on strengthening the El Nino through the spring and into the summer, and so by the time you get to the autumn of 2015, we're in a super Nino, and that was the strongest El Nino event ever recorded, back to 1950 anyway. Now, it's far too early to say that we're going to do that again for 2019-2020, but it is striking that we're getting these very negative SOI numbers appearing in a period that would normally be starting to fade back to ENSO neutral. So we won't know for a little while where this is going. We'll know by the time we get through to the end of the spring and into the start of summer, then we'll know where this is going. But normally you would expect to be seeing us fading back to ENSO neutral. We're not. We're actually strengthening the El Nino signature through February. Could be just temporary, could be something that's just going to be very much restricted to February, or it could be the start of a spiral into a much stronger El Nino event. I think the ENSO updates for March and April are going to be very interesting. If things are working as you normally expect them to do, then we should see the SOI going much more towards the positive side. We should see the ENSO signature itself going back to ENSO neutral through March, April and May. So next 2 or 3 months are going to be very interesting to see where things are going. Let's see what the models are predicting. This is the ENSO forecast from CFS V2. That's where we are right now. So still in weak El Nino condition at the moment. We're around there, so somewhere between 0.5 degree and 1 degree above average, barely making it to an El Nino, but it is just about an El Nino type signature. Now, the black dash line is the ensemble mean for the CFS V2. That does actually increase a little bit as we go through to April. So it goes above 1 degree above average. So that's kind of like between 1 and 1.5 degrees above average, which is sort of moderate to El Nino territory. So it is seeing, the CFS is seeing that through the spring. Again, it's unusual to do this, but through the spring, we increase El Nino from weak El Nino to moderate El Nino. So by April, we're into a moderate El Nino event. And then we just see kind of like a flatlining at moderate El Nino levels through to the summer. That's July, of course, just there. So remaining sort of at moderate El Nino threshold through to the end of the year. That's October, just there. But there's quite a split there. So we've got quite a lot of CFS ensemble members that are up here going for a strong or possibly even borderline super Nino. Conversely, we've got these ensemble members down here that are kind of like going back to ENSO neutral, and even a couple of them going into weak La Nina type territory. So very uncertain within the CFS at the moment where things are going to go. That's because we're at the spring predictability barrier. And these models always get a stronger signal, a stronger sense for where things are going when you get through to the summer. What I would say is that blue-coloured lines are the more recent ensemble members within the CFS ensemble blue. And there are several of them that are up here, several of those blue lines that are up there, which is kind of like moderate or strong El Nino type territory. So it could be that CFS is shifting a little bit towards this El Nino strengthening through 2019. It could be doing that, but it's very early days, of course, and it could just be a response to what's happening with the SOI. ECMWF ensemble plume is looking like this. I think overall the ECM is quite a bit lower than the CFS. So again, we've got the dates along the bottom, temperature anomalies are along the side. So anything that gets up to around 2 degrees above average is kind of like going to be getting into strong El Nino territory. If you're around 2 degrees above average in the ENSO region, that's pretty much strong El Nino territory. If you go above 2 degrees, anywhere between 2 and 3 degrees, which would be going up to there on this scale, that's Super Nino type territory. So we've got one member just there that's getting quite close towards a strong El Nino, and then we've got these ones down here that are more in sort of moderate El Nino territory. However, the thrust of the ECM ensemble plume is really kind of like here, I think. So let's say it's around there. So these ones down here, obviously they're outliers, they're cold outliers going towards weak La Nina. These ones up here are warm outliers, they're kind of like moderate to strong El Nino. But most of those members of the ECM ensemble plume are kind of like in very weak El Nino territory to ENSO neutral, but on the warm side of ENSO neutral. So that's where we're starting off at right now with the ECM ensemble plume. It does actually see a little bit of a strengthening as we go through the spring. So still that idea as we go through to March, April, May, there's a little bit of a strengthening of the signature going on there from where we start off at, but then generally seeing things dropping back towards ENSO neutral through the summer and into the autumn. I think that ECM is trying to maintain El Nino, weak El Nino through the spring and then declining it back through the summer. And that's pretty much where Jamstech is as well. So again, this is the same idea. We've got the temperature anomalies on the side. The dates are on the bottom. That's where we are right now. Just at borderline ENSO neutral to El Nino type threshold. The red line is the ensemble mean, and that is seeing that we do increase El Nino signature through March. So temporarily El Nino strengthens as we go through February, March, possibly to April. That's April just there, of course. By then, Jamstech is trying to drop this back, though, and it continues to weaken then. This weak El Nino signature continues to weaken into the summer. So by the time we get through to the summer and the autumn, we're firmly into ENSO neutral type territory. So I think we've got the two models there, the ECM and Jamstech, that do see a temporary strengthening of El Nino in the next month or so, but then may take us back to ENSO neutral through the summer, which would be the typical route. That is what you would expect to happen. But got CFS that kind of like wants to keep us at weak El Nino territory temporarily and then strengthen it to moderate El Nino by the summer, probably in response to what's happening with the SY. This is a very confused time, and we're just going to have to wait another couple of months before we know really where this is going. It is interesting and unusual that we are strengthening the El Nino signature through February, which would normally be a weakening period, but it might just be a one-off, or it might be something that only lasts for February and March, and then we start to decline back. So just have to wait and see. We'll know in a month or two where this is going, and obviously we're going to keep you updated. If these very negative SOI numbers continue into March, and if we keep strengthening the El Nino signature on the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, then you can expect to hear a little bit in the media about super Ninos. The media will probably start picking up on what happened in 2014, 2015, when, as I showed you, the El Nino just strengthened through the spring of 2015 and then really took off through the summer and into the autumn. I would suspect the media will pick up on that, and you'll probably start hearing about Super Ninos quite shortly if the SOI stays very negative and if we continue to see the strengthening of the sea surface temperature anomalies in the actual Pacific Ocean. But just because that happened in 2014-15 does not mean that's what's going to happen this time. So caution needed, and we'll wait and see how things are looking next month. But interesting times ahead, and could we have a stronger El Nino for the winter of 2019-20? Too early to say that, but we should wait and see. Right, that's all for now. I said I'll talk about tomorrow's video, so we'll start off first thing tomorrow, 10 AM. with the second and final spring 2019 seasonal model roundup. So that's going to be a very interesting way to start Saturday. Then we'll have a weekend broadcast, of course, as always on a Saturday. And then we'll have a week to 10-day video update as well. So 3 videos coming up on Saturday tomorrow. And then on Sunday, Gazweb's Sunday roundup, we'll have our final batch of spring analogues. So do keep checking back for all of the updates. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.